Hi there, baby. I think it's your bedtime. Yes, of course you can have a bedtime story. I know that always helps you feel cozy, safe, and comfortable, which I believe is the perfect emotional state to help my little one drift off to a lovely, restful sleep. Don't worry, darling. I'm just practicing my elocution. There are some big words in the story I'm going to tell you, so Mummy has to warm up her voice. First, let's tuck you in. Oh, and did you brush your teeth? It's so important, darling, so just make sure. I can come and do it with you if you need some moral support. That's my good baby. There. Now we can slip you into bed, fluff the pillows, pat down your duvet, and just tuck it down at the edges. Oh, and we mustn't forget your stuffy. There we go. Let's make sure they're nice and snug under the covers for you to cuddle whenever you want. What an adorable pair the two of you are. Okay, so the story that will be helping my little baby drift off to dreamland tonight is a little adventure story. But don't worry, it isn't too scary. It's called The Hedgehog Knight. Do you know what a knight is, darling? Yes, that's right. It's a brave warrior who always does the right thing. Well, this hedgehog's name was Helen, and even for a hedgehog, she was particularly small. Helen lived under a hedgerow near a great white castle, and she loved to watch the people going in and out and about the castle grounds all day long, doing their daily chores. The gardener with her trowel, the farmers with their baskets of fruit, the travelling minstrel with her dulcimer, and people riding out on horses to gallop through the lush forest. But Helen's very favourite people to watch were the knights. They rode horses too, although sometimes they strode bravely along on foot. But what really enchanted her about them was their gleaming silver armour, and the proud banners and pennants that trailed behind them, and the little snippets of talk she often overheard about how this knight was on a quest to rescue a prince from a dungeon, or this knight was on a quest to find a cup that made anyone who drank from it clever and wise. To the little hedgehog, it all seemed so wonderful. I suppose you can see why a little hedgehog who's just about as tiny as your hand would dream of being big and brave. So it happened that one day, after a long time spent watching all the knights come and go, that Helen plucked up every last bit of her courage, which, although she didn't know it, was quite a lot. And when she saw a knight with a brilliant blue feather in their helmet leaving the castle on foot, she scurried out from under the hedge and leapt into the knight's gambeson, stowing away. Oh, what's a gambeson? I'll confess I don't know either, sweetheart, but Helen told this story to me herself, and she assures me that's what she did. Oh, I'm just kidding, baby. It's a quilted jacket that the knights would wear under their armour to stop the metal from rubbing against their skin. There. Now you're sleepy and you've learned something. Oh, right. So, Helen found her footing in the knight's cosy quilted jacket, and though there wasn't much room between the armour and the fabric, she was just as tiny as your hand, so that was all right. She bounced along the road, being joggled along with the knight's proud footsteps, and after a half an hour of peaceful walking, she found herself being lifted up. The knight was taking off their armour. Helen tumbled out, and instantly she started apologising. I'm sorry, really I am, she said ever so humbly. She looked up at the knight, who had short brown hair and what she thought was a kind face. I just wanted to see what sort of a wonderful adventure you might be on. Oh, That "oh" was because the knight was picking her up in one gloved hand, and Helen had to fight all her hedgehogly instincts, but it was no good. She instantly rolled into a ball. "Well, you're very welcome to come along," said the knight in a kind voice, looking at the little spiky ball in their gloved hand. "But I must warn you, there might be a little bit of danger, and you're such a little hedgehog." Helen unrolled herself, feeling very embarrassed. "I shall stay right behind you all the time." Secretly, she hoped that if she saw up close how knights had their adventures, she might be able to go into the castle one day and become a knight herself. "Well, all right then," said the knight, "but just make sure you keep yourself safe. I shouldn't like to think of a gentle little hedgehog getting hurt on my account." Helen agreed, and off they went into the deep, dark forest. As night fell, the gentle hoots of owls drifted down from the tree tops, and although Helen had to hurry to keep up with the night, she marvelled at how peaceful it all was. They passed by mossy paths and babbling streams, and Helen even saw some other hedgehogs she knew. They exchanged pleasantries, and the knight was most charmed to be introduced to them as well. "Have you perchance seen a pedestal of worked stone deeper still in these woods, friend hedgehogs?" asked the knight, all courtesy. They squeaked back that they had, but it was much farther into the forest, in places where even forest creatures do not normally tread. "That's no problem for us," said Helen bravely. "My friend here is a knight, and as for me, I'm treading somewhere I don't normally tread right now." The hedgehogs agreed that this was sensible, and Helen and her new friend continued on. The forest was so soft and quiet that it felt very peaceful. Inside, the little hedgehog felt happier than she had in some time. She was finally on a quest. Finally, they came upon a great clear lake, in the middle of which was an island. And on that island, darling, was the most marvellous thing, a white marble pedestal, utterly bathed in warm golden light. It was soft, deep, dark night in the forest, but around that pedestal alone it looked as though it was a summer's day. Little flowers blossomed in the grass around its base, and atop the pedestal there was a golden cup from which all the lovely light seemed to flow. "The chalice of sunbeams," said the knight, wondering at the golden radiance of it in the forest at night time. "That is the object of my quest. The queen has tasked me to find it, and now, at last, it's found." At first, the knight tried wading over through the lake, but their armour was much too heavy. They didn't get far away from the shore before they had to turn back. Then they tried taking off some of the gleaming silver armour and swimming, but from the day's hard walk they were so tired out they still didn't get very far. Helen thought hard about the problem. She was certain she could swim across, as certain types of hedgehog are very good swimmers, you know, and having been carried by the knight for quite a bit, she wasn't nearly so tired out. But then there was the question of the chalice. It was much bigger than she was. How could she possibly carry it back across the lake to her friend? Then, suddenly, an idea that was just perfect came to her. She paddled across, her little hedgehog tail waggling, and she didn't mind at all that her quills were getting wet, because she was so excited to carry out her plan. Now, at night, there was a particularly fearsome barn owl that hunted in these woods. Helen knew of him by repute, though in her home under the hedgerow she'd always been totally safe. But now she knew she might have to take a little risk. This is where the story gets just a little bit scary, darling. But don't worry, it's all going to be just fine. Wait until you see what happens next. Helen emitted a few little squeaks, looking all wet and bedraggled under the marble plinth, quite as if she was a hedgehog who was simply lost. It wasn't long before she heard the heavy flap of wings and saw the barn owl circling in the sky above. He swooped down at her once, but she curled into a little spiky ball, as all hedgehogs can, and he only scratched his talons trying to pick her up. Then, as the owl dropped her, she wriggled so that she fell directly into the smooth golden bowl at the top of the chalice on the marble pedestal. "Be careful, my little friend," cried the knight, who was watching from the other side of the lake shore and wringing their gloved hands. Now the owl thought he would surely grab this little hedgehog. He swooped again, catching up the chalice in his talons, meaning to carry it away with Helen the hedgehog inside. Now Helen wasn't worried at all, for you see, she'd planned this owl out perfectly. Barn owls fall asleep during the day, and after just a few seconds of carrying the chalice of sunbeams, Helen could see the owl getting sleepy already from the bright sunlight that flowed like honey from the enchanted cup. He flapped his wings once, twice, and then fell asleep, dropping the chalice right over the shore of the lake. It floated up to the knight's feet, and Helen paddled up right alongside it. "You've done it, my little friend," said the knight, marvelling at how they were both bathed in the radiance of daylight. Helen blinked a bit. Hedgehogs prefer to do all their frolicking at dawn and dusk, and the bright sunlight was a little bit much for her. "You have been a true companion in my quest, and I should like to see you rewarded." "If it's perfectly all right," said Helen to the knight, "I believe I have a favour I'd like to ask the Queen." "I'm sure she'd grant you any wish for completing our quest so cleverly," said the knight kindly. And she did, for when Helen went before the Queen the next morning and announced that she wanted to keep going on quests like the thrilling one she'd just been on, that she wanted, in other words, to be a knight herself, her wish was granted instantly. All knights must have special names, of course, and so she became Lady Helen of the Clever Quills. And Helen became, well, not the greatest knight in all the land, but at least the second or third greatest. And, sweetheart, you'll never believe it, they even made a little set of shiny armour just for her, fitted to go over her quills, and a little red banner to fly behind her as she rode out on her adventures. She kept the banner, of course, but the armour she said she didn't need. After all, hedgehogs have their own perfect protection. Whenever they're in trouble, they can just roll up in a safe little ball. Just like you're all snuggled up in bed right now, little one. Yes, that's right. Sweet dreams, my precious angel. I so very much hope that helped. I love you, and I'll be here in a flash the second you need me, okay? Rest now, darling. You're safe and loved and warm and snug. I hope you enjoyed the story and that it got you comfy and happy and ready to dream big dreams, just like Helen the Hedgehog. Good night, my little angel.